Kia ora koutou. My name is James Russell, and if you're here, you've found Mad Surf Stories. I'm a surfer, former journo, and author of surf fiction. There's a bit more about that at the end of the podcast if you're interested. But most of all, I'm an enthusiastic appreciator of a good story, especially if it has surfers or surfing involved. There's a rich vein of stories out there in the surf community, of exploration, heroism, yard sales, wildlife encounters, loose units, disasters, and just general epicness. It's those yarns I plan to mine with Mad Surf Stories, so if you have one or know of one, get in touch by emailing me at james@dragonbrothersbooks.com. Righto, on with the show. Brett Archibald, welcome to Mad Surf Stories.
Thanks you very much, James. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us. So, in our emails, just setting this up, you told me that you were from a place called, where are we now? Plettenberg Bay, South Africa. It looked and it sounded to me a little bit like the Margaret River of South Africa. Would that be accurate? Close to Jeffreys Bay.
Yeah, we are exactly
wineries and
1 hour 45 from Jeffreys Bay, an hour 30 from, or maybe an hour 15 from Bruce's Beauties and St. Francis Bay. We have 9 wine estates in our little area. We have great waves in our own bay, in Plettenberg Bay. A lot of great whites, though. We have a lot of them little men in grey suits swimming around here, but we still surf.
Yeah. That Plettenberg Bay, the hook of it looks a little bit like a similar setup to Jeffreys Bay. Do you have a long right-hander similar?
No, unfortunately we don't. The swell direction just doesn't get perfect for us. Only on certain winds and tides. But our bay is broken into about 5 or 6 separate little beaches, and a couple of them are A-frames, and we have really good surf here. Just not consistent like Jeffreys. But the good thing is we're just down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and would you travel down there often?
Oh yeah. I mean, my kids actually, they now just drive up there for the day, if it's good waves. Yeah.
It's about a similar distance for me to go to Raglan. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I
live in Auckland, yeah. I tend to avoid Raglan. It's a little too busy for my liking these days. The young fellas are...
Jeffreys is the same.
Yeah. Well, listen, Brett, we're going to... I reckon we're going to get straight into it. And we'll go back. We're going back to April 2013. And you were on a mental-wise trip with 9 mates, correct?
Yeah.
And it wasn't your first trip, was it?
No, it was my 4th trip. Some of the other guys, it was their 5th trip, and 2 of them was their first trip. So we've been going since we were all in our 50s. In fact, we were celebrating a 50th birthday of one of the blokes this was his first trip, and he decided it was a bucket list thing. But we'd been going, the first time we all went was 10 years prior to that, and our plan was to go every 2 years. So that's why some of the guys, it was their 5th trip. But it's really hard to keep the same crew going. But we had a really amazing bunch of guys we'd all known each other since we were grade 1.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And had you got your favourite spots by then, given that you'd done a few trips before?
Yeah, I think
you don't have to mention them if they're a bit obscure.
No. Unfortunately, the man who knows all those secret spots is the man who saved my life, old Doris. He's the King Kong of that place. So yeah, I mean, I think we all had our favorite spots, especially the goofy footers. They know where they want to go, and the right-handers, we know where we want to go. But the Ments is such an incredible place. The surf guides are so clued up, and depending on wind and swell, they'll suddenly take you to a place. I mean, I think every trip I went on, we found suddenly took us to a new place.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't so crowded and it wasn't so busy. And it just, I reckon there's still undiscovered waves there somewhere.
Yeah, slice of paradise. I've yet to make that trip, but
Oh, you
I've
got
been
it.
talking to a lot
You
of
got it,
yeah,
James. Yeah.
yeah. And so you arrived in Padang. That's kind of the jump off point, right? And you take a ferry,
Yeah.
and your plan was to take a ferry from there to where were you
No,
heading?
no. You see, every time we've been, we actually have booked a surf charter boat that we've got onto in Padang and stayed on for the whole 2 weeks that we've been on the trip. So some of the guys that in between the other trips that we'd done, they'd gone to land-based camps that you get a ferry to. But the trips I'd done, it was always on arrive in Padang, get on a surf charter boat, and then just sail. And for me, that was the beauty of it. You know, you could always, if there's suddenly somebody who heard there were waves down south, you just motor on. You know, you motor through the night and get there the next day. So I'm quite interested in going there. So since we first started going, there's now, I think, good couple of great land-based camps. But so our whole plan was to just repeat what we'd done in the past, but we did silly things this time. You know, this time because we had been, well, not me as many as the other guys, but as a group, there was enough collective information. We said, you know what, we don't need to go with an international boat just because of cost. You know, I mean, traveling in rands is always a big challenge for us guys, and we'd done some research. We'd found this boat called the Nagalao. It was a locally owned boat, local skipper, local surf guide. All the previous times we'd been on boats that had definitely an international skipper, registered international a boat, either a Kiwi and Aussie. We'd had all these skippers, Kiwi, Aussie, American, South African. Those had been our skippers in the past, and just like guys who really know the ocean. This boat we didn't know anything about, but we'd done research on it. It looked good, it looked fine. It was just, I guess, a mistake. You know, we added it up afterwards, all to save $500 US dollars. We'd done this, and it was little mistakes. You know, we got into Padang. I'd been traveling for 60 hours by the time I got there. I'd gone via Singapore. I'd gone Cape Town, Johannesburg, Singapore, Jakarta, down to Padang. Other guys, mates had come in from Australia. Guys had come in from Mauritius. A mate had come from Dubai. And then all over South Africa. And it was just, you know, normally you get there, you get on the boat and you set sail. And one of the reasons this time we'd all taken really hardcore routes to get there to arrive in the morning, because normally if you just took the normal route out of South Africa or most of the places, you arrive in Padang late in the afternoon. But then you jump on the boat and you head off. And I mean, being a tropical place, the storms, when they come in the evening, you know, they don't come in the morning. So we had said, let's get there really early in the morning. So we were landing, but everybody would have been on the ground and ready to go by 11 a.m. And worst case scenario, on a good day, it's a 9-hour trip, you know, across to Phuket. So we arrived a cracker morning, sea like a mirror, ready to jump on the boat and go. And we were told that our boat was now, our skipper, not our skipper, but our surf guide, in his wisdom, and to save literally $500, because if I don't know, well, you haven't been, but you get into Padang and then you got about a 2-hour taxi ride through the jungle to go over a little outcrop to where the harbor is. So the Padang harbor is not where the town is. There's a river there, and our guy had taken the boat up the river to save hiring taxis. You got to hire 2 taxis, put all the boards in one taxi, the blokes in another taxi, cart them over the mountain, and there's docking fees in the harbour, whereas up the river you can just take the boat. So he'd taken the boat up the river, but it was tide dependent. So now when we arrived, it was full low tide, or was going almost low tide, so we couldn't set sail. He told us, no, we got to wait till 7 p.m. that night. And we were, I have to tell you, we were not very happy nine South African 50-year-old men that had traveled for 60 hours were not in the best of moods. But we got dumped at a place called the Happy Karaoke Bistro, which is one of the local places. We all knew it. Got dumped there, had some lunch, had a couple of beers at lunch. Everybody says, how drunk were you when you fell overboard? I'd love to say out of my skull, but yeah, we had a couple of beers, we had a meal. Some of the guys were lying under the trees resting. We got taken up to the boat at about 5 p.m. and started getting the boat ready to set sail. And literally two things happened. The skipper said I was very grumpy, and I kind of group mouthpiece. I was shouting at him about why he'd taken the boat up the river, etc. And then he said to me, they didn't know, they could hardly pronounce our names. I mean, in fact, the surf guide was really the only guy who spoke English. And the other crew guys were just full on Bahasa Indos. And so he said to me, listen, if we don't use the chef to cook a meal tonight and we just get takeouts, we'll have the boat ready quicker. So I just said, just do whatever you got to do, And long story short, we had pizza that night. I mean, he went and got 3 pizzas. We had no idea where they came from. We got these 3 pizzas delivered on the boat. We jumped on the boat and we set sail down the river. We were sitting eating the pizzas. And to this day, I mean, I've never eaten a calzone again. There were 3 calzones. They were three people to a pizza. They're really big pizzas to share amongst 3 guys, and we had 3 of these. And I still to this day remember my mate cutting this pizza open and the stench of the meat in it. And we found out afterwards it wasn't even a beef, it was water buffalo. 2 of the pizzas had been lying in the sun the entire day before they were cooked, and we smashed these things. We were starving. We had this dinner. Interestingly, one of the pizzas was fine. So 3 of the guys on board, they never got any deli boy, Indo belly or whatever. I mean, the other 6 of us, our boat just went mental later that night. But we set sail down the river. We hit the ocean, and it was quite. We'd finished the pizzas. We were sitting up on the deck chatting. The guys were unpacking their boards and putting them in the board racks. Other guys were in their cabins. And as we hit the ocean, I remember saying, we were sitting by the window of the skipper's cabin, and I said to him, hey, Skippy, big storm, because I looked far out to sea and just saw this really big dark cloud brewing. And he said, no, not bad. Again, I mean, hindsight's the best vision. 5 boats had gone out that night, 4 international boats, all international skippers. They all got the storm warning. They all turned around and went back. That night, we just kept going, and we were probably up on deck chatting. I mean, we all lived in different cities, so we hadn't seen each other for some of the guys I hadn't seen since the previous trip 2 years before that. So
and I guess after a day like that, you'll probably just say, come on, let's go. We're wasting enough time. Every moment counts on those holidays, right?
Exactly. So I remember going down, getting into my bunk, and we all shared bunks. And I said to my bunk mate, I said, hey, I hadn't phoned my wife. It was so crazy. I hadn't phoned. The last time I'd spoken to her was in Jakarta, and she'd said to me, please just phone me before you do the crossing and when you get there the other side, as long as I know you guys are safe. And I think that was because the first trip we went on, we had one of our mates, it was a bad storm, and he nearly went over. Fortunately, he was sitting on a railing. We had a bad wave. He went backwards, and he managed to stick his leg, and 2 of us grabbed him and hauled him back. And I'll never forget our skipper. He was an American guy, Chris, and he said, guys, he went mental at us. And he just said, guys, you don't understand. If Mark had gone over, then that was it. We would never find him. In this kind of storm, that kind of ocean, never turn around. We'd never find him. Even if we threw a life buoy, we'd never find him. So and that had always stuck with me, And we now, I look at my phone, there's no signal. I try and send in those days, I had a BlackBerry, try to send a BlackBerry message. That didn't go through. I went to bed and I passed out, and I woke up And it was around about 11:15, 11:30, because I remember checking my phone, trying to send this message to my wife. I woke up at 1:30 in the morning, and our boat was we were in the front bunk in the head of the boat, in the bow, and our boat was just smashing into the waves. And I woke up and I said to my cabin, I said, "Wow, this is a pretty hectic storm, and we were really getting tossed around." And I'd never been seasick, I mean, I grew up in the ocean. I didn't know, and I needed to go to the bathroom. So I climbed up. We had a little ladder to the top section of the boat. So I climbed up this little ladder. And as I got to the top, one of my mates was running down the passage with a big red screwdriver in his hand. I said, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing?" He said, "Hey, listen." And then I just heard, "Help me, help me, help me." And it was coming from the cabin next to me. And I tried to open the door. And that's when my mate Mark said, "Oh, the door's stuck. And he stuck the screwdriver, bust the door open. And the sight that greeted me was this friend of ours, Banger Main Guard from Mauritius, 6'5" bloke, 6'4", 115 kilograms. He just was emptying his toiletry bag and just spewing, mate. Oh. All I remember is just this. It looked like a horror movie. Just this tar pouring out of his mouth into the toiletry bag. And besides him, on the bunk below where he was sleeping, was our other mate Craig, just staring with these big eyes, holding on while this boat is just smashing around. And I looked at that, and I just suddenly, my stomach just went, "Whoa," and I was not a very good mate. I just raced down the passage into the heads. I had a pair of shorts on. I got them down, and mate, I sat down. There was a little basin there. I put my mouth in the basin. I was on this toilet, and I exploded from both sides.
I've been there,
man.
Yeah.
We've all been there. But this, I tell you what, James, I remember. I didn't know how long it was. All just the same as Banger. This black stuff coming, just vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. Diarrhea. Fortunately, they've got those little hand showers in the boat, in the washrooms. I was just washing the stuff away and just going. Eventually, I got to a point nothing more was coming up. I'm just puking and just. I remember just putting my head on the basin and almost crying, just saying, "Oh, please let this end. I just want to die. I can't be sick again." And eventually, my stomach settled a little bit. I got up, pulled my shorts up, went out, and I thought, I'm not going back to the bunk. I've got to go outside and get fresh air. So I walked out the back of the boat, and there were two sliding doors, and I slid them open, and there was my mate Banger. He was lying. He didn't even try and make a bathroom. He just run down the passage. He'd grabbed a salad bowl out of the galley, out of the kitchen there, gone outside. He was lying on the floor on the back of the boat, just retching this black stuff. Waves were, the water was coming over the back of the boat. There was one of the Indo crew guys was on night duty. He was standing there holding on for dear life. And the exhaust fumes were there. And I just said to Banger, "Hey, mate, we got to get up. I need fresh air." So I pushed them up the ladder, up to the top deck where we keep the boards and where you spend the day. And he just literally dived onto one of the benches there. And he just said, "Find out how long we've got to go." And I walked into the skipper's cabin. I'm a skipper myself. The first thing I looked down was the GPS. And there was the little round green globe with all the little concentric circles and our little boat in the middle of it. Right where. So I was Padang there, Tour Paget there, and our boat there. And I looked at the time, and it was 2:25 in the morning. And I'd gone into that toilet at 1:30. And all I thought was, I've been sick for an hour. And then I looked at the time and I went, "Skipper, we're only halfway. We were meant to be there." So we left at 6. So we should have been there by worst case scenario. Okay, bad storm, 6 a.m. was our plan. We're not counting the storm. We'd all planned we'd be in the water by 6:30 and surfing and then come back for breakfast. That was the agreement. And he just looked at me and said, "Mr. Brett, big storm, big storm." And I just said, "Well, why didn't you turn back?" He said, no, just big storm, big storm. Anyway, he had a little fridge in that's where the crew all slept. There was a little fridge. There were 2 Cokes there. I grabbed a Coke, one for myself, one for Banger. I said, "How long have we got to go?" He said, maybe 12, maybe 10, maybe 12 hours. Oh. And I looked at him and said, "You've got to be kidding." I said, "Turn around, let's go back." He said, No, we must go forward, we must go. Anyway, he just kept plowing on. I went out to Bangor and I said, "Buddy, we got 10 to 12 hours of this." He said, "You know what, I'm going to jump overboard and swim. It'll be easier for me than lying on this boat. Anyway, I said, "You got to drink a Coke." And he said, "I can't, I really can't." So I drank my Coke. It was really lashing down with rain, and we had each had little cubicles there, and my T-shirt from the day before was in my cubicle, and it was quite chilly, interesting. It's the middle of summer there, but I was quite cold. So I grabbed my T-shirt, I put it on, I finished my Coke, put it in the bin, grabbed Banger's Coke from him. I said, "You got to drink." He said, "I can't drink it." So I started drinking his Coke, and then he started puking. And when I saw him puking, it got me going again. And I walked to the railing on the port side of the boat. He was lying next to me, and I was chatting to him. I said, "This is so bad." And a friend of ours came up the stairs, and he said, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" And I said, "Buddy, I feel like I'm going to die." Banger said, "I am dying." And he said, "Mate, you want to see what's going on downstairs? It's just carnage. There's 4 guys just spewing everywhere, falling. We're trying to help everybody. Are you guys okay up here?" And I said, "I honestly think I'm going to die." And he must have literally gone downstairs, and I reckon I went over. As he went down the stairs, I puked. But it was a whale of I've got a very macabre sense of humor, and this came out, James, like a fire hydrant, mate. Black. And I remember going, "Good one, Archie, good one." I spoke to myself. The next one wasn't so good because I vomited. The wind blew it straight back into my face. I had just puke all over me. And the third time I vomited, I was just holding on this railing, and this pain came from my lower back up into the back of my head, and it just felt like this explosion. And that's the last thing I remember. I was in a dream. This was so clear. I was in a dream. I thought I was asleep. I was in a dream. I was in a washing machine. I was a kid again. My kids had playing around with my mates as a kid. They'd put me in a washing machine, put some soap suds in. I was going round and round and round in all these bubbles. It was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Why didn't we do this as kids? And they figured out, I obviously went to many doctors after that, and they figured out a thing called your vagus valve, it just shut off oxygen to my brain. I'd blacked out, fallen over. It's a 6.5 meter drop. I didn't feel hitting the water. They figured I got sucked under the boat. I was going through all these bubbles, and I popped out. It's so crazy. It was a twin prop boat. How I didn't get chewed up by the propellers. I went under the boat, through all these bubbles, up, tumbling around in the water. I came up. I remember my head breaking the surface, but my eyes were closed, and I went, "This is so weird." And then I felt the rain on me, and I opened my eyes, and I looked up, and there in front of me was my boat, and I was in the water, and there was my boat. I saw Banger lying there. The lights were on the top deck. The lights were on the back deck, where he had been lying, and I just watched this boat. And next minute we were towing a short little tender boat, a little tinny behind the boat. It came past me. How it didn't smack me in the head, it would have just taken my head off. It went past me, and I just went, "I have to catch that boat." And I put my head down, and I just swam. I don't think I did more than 10 strokes. I just lifted my head up. That tinny was now 15 meters in front of me. The big boat was 20 meters ahead of that, just going. It would go up in the wave and then disappear, and then these rolls of water would just hit me and pound me and push me down, and I'd come up, and I saw the boat twice, and then it was gone. And
were you yelling?
I was screaming. I was just going, "Hey!" Because I could see the night guard, but he was sitting in his chair, his head lolling around. Banger, the noise of the storm. No one saw me go. No one heard me. I screamed, mate. I thought my lungs were going to come out of my throat. And I'm sure it was probably 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds tops, and then it was all gone. It was just pitch black. I just remember this massive wave pounding me on the head, pushing me down. And then I was just swimming because I hadn't taken a decent enough breath. And then the only way I knew I was going the wrong way is because my ears were getting sore because I was going down. And then I had to turn and I panic. come up, take a breath, and then get pounded again and just pushed under. And this just continued on and on. And, it was the weirdest thing. I went through 3 crazy emotions. The first one was just absolute anger. Just screaming, like watching that boat go away. I was going, I can't use the expletives I used. Come back, and just swearing at them. Then I grew up in a very religious home. I walked away from the church when we had to do military service in South Africa, but I've always stayed what I think is very spiritual in the ocean. The ocean's my church. It's my happy place. It's where I talk to my God up there. Often people paddle up to me and say, who are you talking to? And I say, I'm just having a chat with the world and the universe and my God. And I got angry with that God. I was saying, this is not fair. I'd only been married to my wife for 10 years at the time. My daughter was 9, my son was 6. I was like, I haven't had time with them. This is not fair. You can't do this to me. And that anger went from anger to this realization, okay, this is where you're going to die. I just knew it. I was 110 k's out to sea. It's not a shipping channel. It's not a boating channel. The only boats that go there are supply boats and surf charter boats. I knew any surf charter boat in their right mind would have gone back. Our boat was heading. He wasn't going to turn around. He didn't see me. So there were no boats coming. I can't swim 110 k's. It was purportedly the worst storm in 36 years that had been recorded. It was just all over the place. And I just knew I was going to die. And the biggest question for me became, what is going to kill me? How am I going to die, and how long is it going to take? And that just became my focus. I have no idea why I did this. I broke my neck in 1996. That was totally tequila's fault. It had nothing to do with me. I had I drank a bottle of tequila, and I dived out of a 3-story building into a swimming pool that was only like 80 centimeters deep and had hardly any water in it. And
as you do.
As you do. Snap my chin that way. So I'd done quite a bit of yoga and stretching and stuff. So it was the weirdest thing. I don't know why I did this. To this day, I still try and work it. I put my hand on my pulse, on my arm, and I've done the good old Boy Scout way of counting your pulse, 1001, 1002. And all I remember is at 15, you times that number by 4. And all I remember is my pulse was over 180 beats a minute. And it's obviously not accurate, but I knew my heart was just going. And I thought, that's adrenaline. If you carry on like this, that adrenaline's going to run out very soon and you're just going to sink to the bottom. So pull yourself together. So in the ocean, I just closed my eyes, just treading water. I did this yoga mantra, and it was incredible. I quickly got my heart rate down, and then I started thinking, like, okay, I can't swim 110 kilometers. My boys are going to realize I'm missing. They're going to come back to me. So what did the skipper say? It's going to, worst case scenario, they're going to go all the way. He said 10 to 12 hours. Have a bad, even worst case scenario. So I said, okay, 14 hours. I have to stay on top of the water for 14 hours. How am I going to do that? And it's the craziest thing, on all the trips there, the Indos are the most amazing people, but they chuck everything in the riverways, they chuck it all and goes out to sea. So every island we'd ever been on, you see flip-flops, you see plastic bags, you see broken surfboards. In fact, the trip before, we'd seen a refrigerator from a kitchen floating along. So my macabre sense of humor, I'm going to find a fridge. It's going to be floating. It's going to be full of Bintangs beer. I'm going to climb in this damn thing. I'm going to drink beer. My mates are going to come and find me. I sort of just be positive. And it was weird. So nobody knows the exact time, but I'd been in the skipper's cabin, seen the time at 2:25 a.m. It could have been 10, 15 minutes later, tops, that I went overboard. So I remember, with a weird thing, I cramped. I was starting to cramp so badly to the point my hands were getting so tight I couldn't make a fist. I never tried to swim a stroke. I just tried to do breaststroke. Keep my head above water, be able to breathe, see the rollers coming at me, take a breath, go under them, swim under, because that was much better than just getting pounded and pushed down, because then I never knew where I was, So I just had this. And I was just counting and doing this breaststroke, And then I started cramping so badly. And for this, I've fallen overboard with a T-shirt on and a pair of board shorts. And it was raining so heavily, and a good tropical storm, pounding. I was trying to get water in my mouth, trying to make a funnel, and that wasn't working. So then I had this brainwave. I thought if I take my T-shirt off, tie it around my head, the rain will go in the cloth, and then I can suck the cotton, and I'll be drinking water. It was so dumb because every time a wave came, I was going under. So I'd be sucking salt water. But I thought that was such a clever idea. But I just cramping, and I don't know why.
You must have been so dehydrated, right? It's like the perfect.
Yeah, totally.
The worst start ever for a long ordeal in the ocean. Tell me, can I just ask Brett, your mate Banger, if he had his eyes open, were you within sight of him when you fell off the railing? If he had his eyes open, would he have seen you go, or were you kind of slightly separated?
Yeah.
He probably didn't give a shit where you were, I guess.
No, he didn't give. I mean, we've all been there. When you are in that state, right then, when I was puking, I wasn't thinking about anybody except myself. When I was in the bathroom doing that, when I was on the railing, that's exactly where he was. He just had his head down. He was lying on this bench, his head over the edge of the bench with this salad bowl, and he was just heaving into this damn thing. And I still believe that, I reckon when Mark went down the stairs and had to walk through the galley and that, I reckon I went over right next to the window of the dining area and the lounge area. But it was pitch dark. It was 2:30 in the morning, Bang and I we have it. Yeah, Bang and I to just a slight wry joke about every time he introduces me to someone now, he says, "This is my mate who just jumped overboard and didn't say goodbye." And I introduce him, I say, "This is my mate who just pushed me overboard." But yeah, I can't, I think he could have, if he'd been totally in full spirits and fine, lying on the bench where he would have seen me easily. But he was in his own hell, I was in my own hell.
Yeah,
I'm in the water. So when I was cramping.
So you're thinking about your T-shirt on your head. That's where we got to.
Yeah, I've got the T-shirt on my head. I had to go through another wave, and it pulled my head back so hard with the T-shirt on. I remember taking the T-shirt, throwing it away, and going, "Damn! I really liked that T-shirt. It was a Doors T-shirt," and I was like, "Oh, damn!" And then I had a belt on.
So you lost it. You lost that T-shirt.
Yeah,
it's gone.
T-shirt gone.
Oh God!
So I had this belt on this kind of surface shorts that I'd been wearing, and I realized then I just was cramping so badly, and I couldn't. I tried to swim, and I kept going under, and at one stage my ankles were actually against my buttocks because my legs were cramping so badly, and I was lying on my back trying to swirl my arms around. I just said, you know what? But interestingly, I wanted to leave a message for my family. Nobody saw me go, and I said, no one will ever know what happened to me. So I took this belt off, and I got the buckle, and I was trying to scratch into my skin. I wanted to scratch accident, slip, goodbye, love you. I was going to scratch those 4 words into my skin. And I started doing the A, and I had to realize a really stupid idea. It starts bleeding. It was damn sore. And then I suddenly went, oh my God. I don't know what sharks are in this ocean, but blood, sharks, the sharks are going to come. They're going to eat me. No one will ever read my message. Dumb idea. Threw my belt away. Now I'm trying to rub this little scratch on me. And for some reason, I patted my back pocket. And in my back pocket, we'd all met in Jakarta, and we'd booked a room. We'd all booked a little room at the hotel, this airport hotel, where we could shower and freshen up, and because we had about a 4-hour gap between our next connecting flight, so we could maybe have a little nap, clean up. So I think 3 of us had booked rooms, and the other guys filtered in, and we all just shared these rooms. But I'd booked a room, and in my pocket I had the room card in this little plastic pouch. And I remember looking at this thing and had it in my hand and thought, well, and I got this brainwave. I suddenly thought, you know what, there's going to be helicopters, there's going to be boats looking for me. I thought with that plastic card, the sun's going to come out. I can reflect the sun, and I can use it as like a mirror to identify where I'm in the ocean. I mean, it was such a dumb idea. But it was, I don't know if you ever remember that movie with Tom Hanks when he was stranded. Castaway, yeah. And he had his little ball that was his friend, and he used to chat to. This became I put it in my pocket. I thought, that's going to save my life. And then I looked at the plastic, and I looked at it, and it had the room number piece of paper in it. I thought, nothing I can do with this. And I threw it in the water in front of me. And, James, it was like an epiphany. This thing landed and started drifting off straight away. And I went, oh, my God, current. The current. And this is a crazy thing that I never knew at the time. But if your body, the human body, is in a big mass of water, be it a river, a lake, or a dam, or there's a current in there, and you are just doing breaststroke, you will always face into the current will turn your body around because you're slowing down and it'll turn your body. So all this time, I don't know, I mean, it was just getting light. And the sun normally comes up there at about 4:45 a.m., so 2 hours later, it's getting lighter. I am the current. And I knew the current went from Padang down across the straits. It always flows down there. So I'm going to hit land, but I've been swimming against the current. I swam after that little piece of plastic, and I fundamentally believe that's one of the things that saved my life, because every time I got so exhausted, I'd chuck this in the water. I'm facing the wrong way, turn around, and I thought, okay, I'm on the current. It's a strong current. I didn't know the current was doing 2.5 kilometers an hour. So I should have hit land. I should have hit land before nightfall. But for some reason, because of the severity of the storm, the current was going down and it had turned in the ocean. And this is such a radical part of the whole rescue because of Doris later. But I was so buoyed up now. I am singing songs, I'm talking, I'm on the current, I've just got to keep swimming, I'm going to see land. I never got to see land. I swam that whole day. I was very fortunate. The major storm abated. I had no idea of time. I didn't have a watch on. And I was also very fortunate the sun never came out. It was a stormy,
I was just going to ask about
day
that. Yeah. You're similarly follicularly challenged as I am.
Yeah. No, I was.
So
I still got
and
burned.
You also lost your T-shirt, right? So you're pretty exposed.
You should have seen my head when I was rescued. Man, it was like this bad. As Doris, I mean, if you've listened to any of the short film clips and videos, it was, how is he? He's alive? Yeah, mate. He's bloody bright red as a beetroot.
Doris is the boat captain that picked you up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I didn't realize I was getting burnt because I'm just swimming, waves are washing over me. But I have to be honest, that stretch of time, I started, I don't know why my brain did this. Where were we? I'd gone back to all the people that I could remember I'd met in my life. And it was just so weird. I was good people, bad people. But there were two people I realized while I'm in the ocean, I'd really hated them. And I'd carried that hatred with such an intensity. I thought about them often. Not every day of my life, but sometimes I'd be shaving and I'd think about them. And I knew where they'd moved to and what they were doing. And I was like, I held such a grudge against them. And it was so weird, James. In the ocean, I actually shouted to my wife. I said, Anita, I've let them go. And I said their names. And it was almost like this weight off my shoulders. And I felt like I could swim forever. And I'm swimming and the sea's getting calmer and calmer. It was still massive, big undulating swells, but not breaking anymore, not white rollers. And I didn't know the time at that stage. I remember going up over this crest of a wave, and in the distance I saw a boat. And I was like, oh my God. Then I was down in the dip of the wave, and I came up again, and then I saw this boat, and it was coming straight at me. And next time I saw it, I realized it was our boat. It was the Nagalau. And I am like, oh my God, I'm going to be rescued. And I'm chatting to myself, and this boat stops. And I could see them. I don't think they were more than 50 meters away from me. But they couldn't see me.
So what time of the day would this have been, Brett?
This was registered.
What time
they
of the day?
registered in the boat's log. It was 2:30 p.m. So it was exactly 12 hours that I'd been in the ocean.
Okay.
And they stopped, and I could see them. And so they stopped to my right, but I was ahead of the boat. So the bow was, I was looking at the bow, and then the starboard side of the boat. I could see two of my mates. It was raining pretty hard. I could see two of my mates on the top deck. They had hoodies on, and I couldn't understand why they were looking down. What I didn't realize was the rain was coming from behind me, so it wasn't affecting it wasn't going in my eyes. It was hitting the back of my head, but it was going straight into their eyes. So they were just looking down and around the boat. And I tried to swim there, James. I tried to swim to that boat, and I just couldn't get there. This current, next minute I was in the middle of the boat. It was still on my right, 50 meters away. I am screaming. I'm putting my head down. I'm swimming with everything. Next minute I'm at the back of the boat, at the stern, and I'm thinking, what a clever skipper. He stopped there. He's not going to try and navigate a 65-foot boat up to me. He's going to put the tender boat in the water and come and pick me up in the tender boat. I get to the back of the boat now, and there's all this activity. What I didn't know at the time was they had seen on the port side of the boat a block of polystyrene, about my size, big block, tall, and it was so waterlogged, it was sitting just below the surface of the water. So every now and then, as a wave hit it, it would pop up, and they thought it was my dead body, and they thought it was like an elbow, the back of my head, my bald head, my back, my foot. So they waited while this thing drifted up to them, and they had a gaff. Because the only two guys, there was all this activity at the back of the boat, but nobody coming to find me. And next minute, I just saw, I'm at the back of the boat, and I go, these guys haven't seen me. And I remember putting my head down and just swimming, and lifting my head and screaming, and swimming and screaming. And next minute, I just was so exhausted. I haven't got any closer to the boat, and I just saw these two puffs of black smoke come out the funnel exhaust at the top of the boat, and they sailed away again. And I thought I'd had a meltdown when I saw them sail away the first time. Let me tell you, that for me was just the end. I knew no other boats were coming. They'd come back. What they'd done, they'd got to Tuapajet. They'd turned around, headed back, tried to plot the exact same. And that's how good their plotting was. They were on track that they literally sailed straight up to me, but they stopped because of something else, and yet they didn't see me. And they carried on back all the way to Bintangs, where we'd started. And yeah, I watched them sail away. The storm swept across the sea. It was the weirdest thing. It was the most powerful downpour of rainwater I'd ever seen in my life. I remember lying on my back, managing to make a little funnel, getting some fresh water. Delicious taste that, I'll never forget. I love water now. I didn't used to drink a lot of water, but I drink a lot of water now. And yeah, this cloud came over, the boat disappeared from sight, this storm washed over me, and then suddenly it was clear, it was gone. And the weirdest thing happened, all I remember is white cloud, and in it I knew it wasn't real because it was the Virgin Mary, but she was made of I forget the name of the stuff. It's growing up. I had it's like little steel bolts and nuts and wheels, and I used to build cars and trucks and Meccano, not Lego. Meccano set, and I loved Meccano set, and I could see Meccano, and I could see if she was made of Meccano, so I knew it wasn't real. And I remember going, so what is this? Is this a sign? Is this me going, I'm ready to go, just please take me. Can't do any more of this pain and this anger. And my boats come, that disappears. And I'm just, oh my God, what is that? And I remember just trying to lie on my back. And I thought, please just let me die. And next minute, the back of my neck, my throat, my shoulders were just on fire. And I looked around me, and all around me were just, we call them blue bottles, a Portuguese man of war, just everywhere on top of the ocean. And I was so happy, James. I knew how I was going to die. And they were all around my throat. The most incredible thing of us as human beings is our will to survive. From that thought, okay, I know how I'm going to die. They're going to sting me to death, to this absolute anger and wrath And I just remember pulling them off my neck, pushing them away. I was swearing at them, shouting and screaming at blue bottles and saying, "You're not going to put me down, I'll show you." And suddenly I was through them. The current had drawn me. I had a few left around me. I'm pulling them. They were all over there. And I'm going, "Oh, I'm still alive. I'm still alive." I was so pumped up. And interesting, the sports psychologist I saw afterwards, he said to me, that gave you like the adrenaline, that those stinging got you so fired up and so angry you were going to go on. And I heard this bell sound, a dang, dang, and I turned in the water and I saw a buoy. It was this bright yellow, it had a little red light on it and it had a bell on it. And it was going dang, dang, dang. And I thought, that's a shipping buoy. And I can swim there and I can get on that thing. And in my mind, I could strip. I knew from doing my skipper's ticket that all buoys have got a little GPS system on. In my mind, I was going to strip the buoy, strip the GPS. I was going to turn it into Morse code. I was going to do Morse code. A helicopter was going to come and fetch me. I had all this garbage going on in my head. I started swimming to this buoy and I swam. I got so close, I started cramping and I kept going under. I thought, Brett, you have to swim. And I just swam, got up to this thing. There was nothing there. Nothing there. And the doctors explained to me, by this stage, I'm taking on so much salt water. My guts, and it was quite interesting. I had to pee so often, because I was drinking so much salt water. My bladder was swelling up, then I had to pee. The pain, mate, of peeing warm salt water out of your bladder is, but again, interesting. The doctor said that was something that saved my life. I was just giving up, and then I'd have to pee, and it would make me so angry. It'd make me want to come on, swim. So now my boat's gone. The sea's actually calming down. It's just these big, beautiful, gentle swells. I don't know what time it is. The sun peeks through the cloud cover and it's setting. It's like over there. It's not high in the sky anymore. And I think, oh my God, the sun's setting. It's setting in the west. The islands are on the west. I've got to hit land soon. And anyway, it was a brief moment of the sun disappearing. The sun only goes down at about 8 p.m., after 8 p.m. there. So I try to figure out, must be around about 4 o'clock. I think I nodded off. When I say nod off, not fall asleep completely, but I was lying in the water and my wife was tickling my back. She was tickling and my wife's the best tickler in the world. I was going, "Oh, baby, that's so nice." Next minute, the back of my legs were on fire and I woke up startled with all around me were these tiny, tiny little silver fish that were nibbling my skin. But the back of my legs, it was so interesting. The back, I didn't know this. Behind your knees is one of the softest parts of the skin on your body. And just from these board shorts that I'd been wearing and just doing this breaststroke, it had worn the flesh away. So I had these raw little holes behind my knees and these little fish started getting down there and they were nibbling the raw flesh. And I was like, it was so painful. And I thought, I've got to catch these. Couldn't catch any of them. They're darting all over me. And the next minute, my left kidney I got this little punch in it, like boom. And I thought, oh my God, what is that? My first thought is what are those horrible fish? They're not piranhas. They've got terrible teeth and they can devour. Barracuda. Because you catch them all the time, when you're fishing there. They're useless fish. You can't eat them. So this thing nudges me, and I think again, oh my God, if that's a shoulder barracuda, fantastic. They'll strip my body. And then this thing nudged me again, but it pushed me in the water, and I went, that's not a barracuda. And I remember going under and thinking, I have to see what this is. And I was just finning around slowly, my eyes wide open, beautiful visibility. And as I fin around, I just saw this shark coming at me. And I remember going, in my eyes and under the water, and I don't know, just the magnification in the water, I thought, oh my God. I thought it was the size of like the London Red Bus, And at first, I just lifted my head like this. I said, buddy, please just bite my head off. Make it painless. But in that split second of doing that, I looked at his fin, and it was a black-tipped reef shark. And I've been very blessed to dive all over the world. And I know a little about their their habitat and their what they do. And they don't. A reef shark does not like being out in big wide ocean. It likes to swim around a reef. So I suddenly went, oh my God, there's got to be a reef nearby. And my crazy fried up brain at this stage says, you have to catch the shark. And in my mind, I was going to catch him, grab his tail, and hold on. And he's going to swim to a reef, and he's going to tow me to the reef. I mean, it was, take me home, buddy, take me home. And as I suddenly went, two things happened. I thought, you know what, you can't catch a shark. So I thought, okay, as he comes at me, I've just got to throw my left arm down his throat. He's going to bite my arm. In that moment, I actually thought I went, Brett, you're such a fool. Why did you throw your belt away? Because I'm going to throw my left arm down his throat, throw my right arm over his head, and just hold on and use his tail, because it's going to be thrashing as my engine, and he's going to steer me. But I'm going to lose my arm. When I get to the reef, I'm going to need a tourniquet, and I'm not going to have my belt. And with a flick of his tail, that shark swam away. And it was the only time I cried. I actually started crying. I was like, come back, please come back, please come back. And you know, I'd worked in my corporate career at the time. I'd worked with a very high-end corporate psychologist, and so I went, obviously afterwards, I went straight to see her and talk about this whole escapade. And she said, Brett, how bizarre was your life at that moment? You were crying because a shark was swimming away from you and not coming to eat you. But I tell you, Jane, I was so distraught. That shark swam off, gone. I'm now in the water, but I'm pumped up again. I'm swimming along. It's starting to get dusk, and I think I must have, my head, I don't know, my head, I remember, keep him flopping in the water, and he's saying, lift your head, fight, fight, fight. And next minute, the back of my head exploded in just feathers. I lifted it up, and this thing hit me in my left eye. I have a lovely scar on my nose here still. And these two seagulls were dive bombing me, hitting me on my head. And I was like, I used to love seagulls. I read the book Jonathan Livingston's Seagull. I thought they were cool birds. I've obviously spoken to the rescue crews and National Sea Rescue in South Africa is now one of the beneficiaries of my charity. And they told me whenever they find these dead bodies, the eyes, the eyeballs are gone, the eyelids, the lips, the nostrils, under your chin here, all the soft skin. The seagulls land on you and they just, they are scavengers. I did not know that, mate.
Well, let me tell you something. My son was sitting in the park the other day and watching. There was a whole bunch of pigeons. A seagull comes down, kills the pigeon, eats it whole.
No, you
he
see, I fully understand that. Seagulls evil. Don't like those birds at all anymore. Anyway, two of them squawked at me and they flew away. But somewhere, this is again the human brain. I had read somewhere in my life that seagulls, they can float on the ocean, just like a duck, but they don't like roosting on water. They like to roost on land, or on a boat or something, So they were flying, the sun setting, they're going that way. They're lazy birds. I'd also read that. They don't like fly hundreds of kilometers out to sea. So there's got to be land nearby. So I check the current again. I'm going in the same direction as the seagulls. I'm so pumped. I'm going to hit land before it gets dark.
I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a mad surf story or know of one, get in touch by emailing me at james@dragonbrothersbooks.com. The following is a chapter of one of my surf novels. You can listen to the rest wherever you get your audiobooks, including Spotify, Audible, Apple Books and Google Play. Or if you like books made of paper, you can find them on my website at dragonbrothersbooks.com. Just click on the menu and select Books for Adults. Or you can buy them on Amazon. All the best. Lines, written and narrated by James Russell. Chapter 6. Anto and I drive to County Clare in my new car. Anto bought me a fucking car. I was getting settled into my new house, a tiny little place at the end of a lane in town, which I just managed to pay the deposit on with Pat's advance, when Anto knocked on the door. He was jumping up and down like a nutter, and he said I had to go with him immediately. He was basically running, and I followed him down the road to the garage where Anto stopped and pointed to a battered-looking old Fiat Punto and told me it was mine, but only if he could use it too. I was dumbfounded, and I tried to tell him that I couldn't accept it, but he just told me to fuck off. He'd even done the paperwork. The car was in my name. It's a shit heap, but it goes. Anto's mad keen to surf Aleen's, a big wave spot at the foot of the cliffs of Moa. But as soon as we get there, we can see that the swell isn't anywhere near as big as predicted. Anto fumes and rages on the cliff top, spewing abuse at the surf forecasters and the weather gods. I'm relieved as hell. I've never seen a surf spot so intimidating. The swell smashes into the base of the cliffs, launching its pulverized foam skyward. The boom of the impact rolls up the cliff face to us. Instead, we drive a bit further down the coast to Spanish Point, and it's clean and a solid 6 foot on the outside reef. As we paddle out, I realise how heavy the wave is. It's an A-frame that rears and pitches, a thick, meaty lip, pretty much square, breaking for no more than 60 metres. The surface gushes with boils everywhere, and it's immediately clear to me that the tide is way too low. I say as much to Anto, but he ignores me and paddles straight in deep, right to the top of the peak. I can hear him babbling to himself as he goes. It's only the third surf I've had with him, the others being fun, head-high beachies at Tullen Strand. This is a different Anto entirely, I realise. I play it safe, sitting on the edge of the channel, waiting to see if any of the big sets might swing wide and break into deeper water. Anto lets the first one go, and I think he's realised that it's a bit hairy. It turns itself out in a grotesquely misshapen, stepped shambles of a wave. There's nowhere to go but onto the rocks. But the next wave in the set is a bomb, and Anto races out to meet it. He takes off late, scrambling to his feet, and makes the drop by the skin of his teeth. Behind him, the cavern of the tube churns like a meat grinder. He fades to get in the barrel, but the angle of the wave is weird, and the tube backs off, eluding him. But it's still a good wave. He's slung out onto the face, and the wall grows alongside him, and he looks like he's locked into a high-line speed run for the rest of it. Instead, Anto fades again, then leans into a savage bottom turn. The wave rears above him. I see him eye the lip. I have a grandstand view of him when he hits it. It's bonkers. It's not a section that should be hit. But he goes vertically up the face and slashes at it with everything he's got, and the wave launches him like he must have known it would. I could see the look on his face when he made the turn, pure anger. He's right at the part of the reef where it breaks closest to the rocks, and he's annihilated by the wave exploding on top of it. He's lost from view in the chaos, and when I see him again, he's 20 metres further in, being driven by the furious turbulence up onto the kelp and the rocks. I can do nothing to help. When the next wave hits, I see him stand and dive into it, his board tombstoning and smashing against the rocks behind him. One more wave goes by before he gets himself clear and into the safety of the channel, and I paddle over to him. He's treading water, examining the remains of his board. There are huge dings and gouges all over it. There's a tear along the side of his wetsuit, up under his arm. When I get close, he holds up his hand to me. His little finger is bent at a strange angle. Instead of pointing up, it extends across the face of his palm. "Do you reckon it might be broken?" he asks. There isn't a hint of regret, of fear. He's grinning like a nutcase. We get ashore and I help Anto take his wetsuit off. Then I strap his little finger to its neighbour with a shoelace. "Fucking witch doctor," he says, grimacing with the pain as I ease it into place. Then we set off for Lahinch to find a doctor. On the drive, Anto starts to talk about his life in Dublin before surfing. He calls it Anto 1.0. It sounds like a shit show, never-ending hard knocks and grinding poverty. He knows his dad to see, but has never once spoken to him in his adult life. Once he saw him pissing in the middle of the street, bombed out of his mind. Anto's the oldest of 3, and his childhood was robbed. He looked after his little brother and sister because his mum worked 2 jobs as a cleaner and wasn't there in the mornings or evenings. He had to cook and clean for them all since he was 10 years old. He got into more and more trouble at school. Then on the morning of his 16th birthday, he arrived at the school gates but walked right past, never to return. His mum went spare, but he refused to go back and she couldn't do anything about it. Anto tells me he became depressed and when his mum found herself a decent full-time job and could look after his brother and sister, he left home to live in a squat with a bunch of lads he knew from his estate. They'd all left school too and were making a living selling drugs and stealing car stereos and whatever else they could get their hands on. They'd have huge piss-ups in the squat, drinking and smoking hash until the sun came up. A few of them started taking smack, and then more of them, and one day when they were sitting watching TV and drinking cans of Tennent's, and Anto was feeling shitty, he relented and let them stick a needle in his arm. He was flattened for hours, sitting there in front of the telly, not speaking to anyone, marooned in the sticky miasma of a heroin trip. He eventually passed out. Anto tells me that when he awoke, he was on his own, the TV still blaring in front of him. The news came on, and there was a 2-second teaser clip of a lad riding a giant wave at Mullimore. It was so big, he looked like a flea on a dog. Anto sat through the news, waiting for the sport and for the story to come on. When he saw it properly, saw the craggy headland of Mullimore, the giant grey-green mountains of water being ridden by those fearless gladiators, something clicked inside him, adjusted itself, realigned his path, fired his imagination. He knew immediately what he was going to do. He could see no obstacles at all. He wasn't discouraged by the fact that he had no money and no means to achieve any of it. He wasn't afraid. Anto laughs when he tells me that up till that point he'd been swimming only twice in his life and had never gone in past his waist. He got up off the couch, packed his stuff and moved back home. He found work in a Greasy Spoon cafe and a pub on the weekends and sold hash and pills, mostly to the lads back in the squat. He saved as much as he could. The little time he had to spare was spent researching the best places to surf. He went into the library for the first time in his life because he found out they had 2 books on surfing. He enrolled in a swim class and learned to do freestyle with posh kids half his age. The swim coach was a poncy fuckwit, but he didn't care. Within months, Anto had bought a second-hand board and a wetsuit and moved to Bundoran. He had just enough to pay the deposit and advance rent on a flat. It was a freezing, crappy bedsit, but from its front window he could see the ocean. It was all he cared about.